Hello, everybody. This is chapter 6 of the textbook. It's about organizational use of decision analysis, this chapter. It's more of a qualitative chapter. So in this chapter, we will discuss how decision analysis is used in organizations. So basically, we have the decision trees, we have all those sensitivity analysis. Now what we are interested in is the use of the decision analysis and basically in different types of organizations. We specifically want to see how decision analysis can be used to add values. So eventually, what matters in an organization, if they want to use a new tool, is to add values. We want to see in what sense decision trees add values to organizations. We will look at the 6 steps, or 6 steps process for the organization use of decision analysis and also values. This process interviews a decision board and also a strategy team as they look together through the 6 steps. Basically, it's helpful for the organization board. In an organization context, value creation is very critical. So basically, what the organizations, different companies, they use these days is just how you can add value, how value can be added to my organization. They actually exist to add values. That's the whole point of having different organizations. They add values to the stakeholders. They have owners, stakeholders, employees. They have basically different people, different interests with the company. So they have to add value in order to satisfy them. To create value, decision analysis must successfully integrate different parts of an organization: strategic management, change management, and operations management. There are different parts of a company that basically a decision tree must integrate them, because a decision tree is not only belonging to a strategy management or change management or operations management. It's basically should be able to integrate all of them in a way that we have more like operations management in the end product and also strategic management in a more kind of upstream. So we have in a strategic management, we have a framework, right? And then we have a value trade-off. So talking about big values, what kind of value the company is looking for, and some sort of information, and also different types of alternative, which makes with some simple logic the outcome of a strategic management. So it's a decision focused, so it makes decisions, and also choose, for example, choosing a good road. So for example, in a strategic management, we are talking about, for example, different road. So the strategic management side says that, okay, what is the good road to take? And then at change focus, it says that, okay, you just selected the road, let's make it better. And then in the operations management part, mainly, we are talking about, okay, you chose the road, it made it better, now let's run well in it. So basically, in the operations management part, we are talking more about the road is chosen, the path of the company is chosen. For example, we want to have an innovative company. Now let's have some changes within the company through decision making, planning, and action, which eventually resulted into some changes in our organization and having a better running and better performance in the road. So basically, that's part of the operations management. Usually, personal decisions in personal decision analysis, it's very simple, right? So the complexity of personal, we have personal decisions in our life, right? Every day we make decisions. Compared to organizational decision analysis, like let's say you are making personal choices. Usually when we make personal choices, it's less complex. Like for example, what clothing to wear every day, or what kind of food you want to have, which restaurant you want to go at night. Usually deal with less people or family, friends, and they are less complex. Whereas in organizations, the problem was really complex. What kind of product to launch, or exactly how many? Like they are more complex problems, and there are less people involved. Like we are dealing with our family, friends, but in organizations there are more people involved. Firm decisions involved in the expertise of many people. It's generating alternatives, but many people involved, they have interest, conflict of interest or ideas, basically generates alternatives, and also more alternatives for us. And basically assessing consequences will be more difficult as well. And there are different aspects of different choices. So basically implementing various aspects of the choices would be also another part of the organizational decision making. In fact, when we want to have a range for decision making in an organization, whereas any kind of decision making, we have the analytical complexity and also organizational complexity. So, for example, our daily decisions are usually simple. Organizationally, it's also simple. So basically, our personal decisions lie over here. Okay, where organizational complexity refers to many parties in conflict, like there are many people involved, individual organizational differences, there are value differences, initial convictions, fundamentally different frames, personalities and competencies, and degree of power and resources. There are also some factors, and there's some group dynamics, which basically makes the whole organization a little bit more challenging. So when you look at, for example, analytical complexity, you deal with like less uncertainty in like personal decisions, and that in organizations is more dynamic. There are many relevant factors, for example, or there are many alternatives in organizations, and multiple decision criteria sometimes we have. So analytical complexity and organizational complexity combined make a graph like that, which we're basically more interested in this part, the structural decision process. We would like to solve more complex problem for organizations. When the analytical complexity is high, whereas the organizational complexity is low, it's like more like traditional decision analysis. So for a small organization, make big decisions. Or if the complexity of organization is high and the analytical complexity is low, it's like facilitating leadership, some sort of easy making decision for big companies. So that's sort of decision making we have. We are more interested in this part, structural decision process. And to do so, and to show the organization that, okay, we can add values to the organization and very useful, there are different steps that we have to follow. The 6-step process we will cover has proven effective for making strategic organizational decisions. Assessment, development, evaluation, deciding, plan, and implement. These are the 6 steps that we have to basically make for an organization to be successful. The key to successful use of these 6 steps is kind of lacing together. So basically, a decision board and decision analysis team. So basically, there are 2 groups that are usually involved. There is a decision board, those who are making the final decision, but to make the decision they need some decision analysis or a strategy team, basically, to help them to make decisions. These people are more they are closest to the business unit that it affected, right? And the decision analysts, they basically line managers and staff who collect, analyze, basically important data and information. So basically, these are more like analysis, like these are more of us, and these are more like managers. Agreements about and ownership of the project and communication between these two groups are really crucial. So basically, they have to come up with agreements. If the analysis team says something and the manager does completely different agenda, it's not gonna. When you look at the lacing diagram, how that really works actually, you can see the decision board. If you put them in the top graph and then also the strategy team in the lower graph, we can see that most of the steps are done in the strategy team, right? But there are some sort of lacing relationship between the management and the analysis team. Usually the decision board initiate and also provide the framework. Okay, you have the framework, this is the problem you're facing. It just gives the original idea and basically initiation of the project or problem. And then there are some assessment and like evaluating business situation or the kind of business model is provided by the strategy team. Then again, understanding and basically providing the challenges to the business team when they are doing the development, and also in terms of assessment would be helpful over here, providing different alternatives, information and value, and basically trade-offs are what this strategy team provides in the development phase. Again, there are some selected alternatives by the managers. Even with like the strategy team that they can come up with some classic maybe alternative, there are some selected alternatives that usually the manager has. Okay, we are going either this way, or that way. But if you can come up with a new thing, that will be perfect. That selected alternative also impact the risk return and also evaluation of the alternative. So basically, this general framework is that, okay, the manager gives me the direction and also provides some understanding about the challenges and also some selected alternatives, and then I come up with some sort of plans, right? Basically, some qualification, some sort of strategy, different types of strategy, different alternatives with different risk and return for each plan, and then we let. So basically, if your analysis after the first 3 steps, you have all this. You have all these steps and evaluation, and then eventually we provide some qualification and list of risk and return to the managerial team. And that's the decision side. Basically, they see all the alternatives, the risks, and also the returns, and then they pick the best alternative. And then based on that, they provide a strategy. That, okay, we're going to do this alternative. Now we have the strategy, let's do the planning for us. What kind of planning for action do we have? And eventually, once the action plan is provided and the leadership is also there, there's a time for implementation. So that's what the different steps are for the strategy team. But each of which they have different basically explanation. The assessment is just how the decision will affect the organization's business success formula. So every organization has a business model, right? So at the assessment team says that this is a specific strategy, this is a specific method. It has a certain impact on the organization in terms of the value creation and also the competitiveness in the industry. Okay. Also, in terms of assessment side, there is a kind of understanding the whole issue. So understanding the issues and setting up the framework or business situation of the business also is part of the assessment. So for when you are going to do this, when you are providing the framework or business situation for an organization, you have to have the purpose, perspective, and scope of the organization into account so that you can provide the best framework. So basically, this is the assessment part. And then we go on. So basically, step one was assessing the project, assess what the organization needs to know and what needs to be delivered. So basically, that's the first part. What the organization needs to know and what they need to deliver, and the results to be delivered. So what results are expected is understanding of the business situation, identifying challenges, right? Making a clear plan for filling the gap in the decision basis with some information, alternative, and value trade-offs. So basically, once we provide challenges and once we have the alternatives, we should know that how much information is needed and what kind of alternatives do we have, and for each alternative, what sort of value trade-off we are having. Okay. Do you have any questions so far? I don't want to be solo talker. So if you have any question or something to add, yeah.
Are you gonna put these online?
Yes, actually, I wanted to put it online, but I saw last time that when it's online, sometimes some people, not in this class actually, they didn't actually listen to anything. So you have the book. I was hesitant. So what do you think? Do you think it's better to have the whole slides before or after? Sometimes when you have it before, then people don't pay attention sometimes. I don't know. Do you have the same feeling or?
So are you going to post it after class instead?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, I wanted to check both. Last week I did it at the time of the class, and then I saw it provides some distraction. But I wanted to see your input too. What do you think? Do you like it before or after?
I prefer before.
Before? How many people before?
I
So
write
far.
down notes on this, right? So
Oh, you put a note. Okay, sure. Okay, that was it. Because there was no quantitative side in this chapter, so I wanted to see what's your reaction to this is. Make sense? Okay. All right. There are some example actually. So when you are talking about a business model, let's just say that you're hired for a pharmaceutical company and you want to provide a business success model, like a business model for a pharmaceutical company. And then we want to see what you can add and basically what you can do for the company. So this is a business model. So we can say, okay, we can add more values, right? We can add more values like clinical, basically superiority, and also then it says that okay, to our customers, physicians and patients, so we can add values to basically their utility or income or outcome. We provide product and services with ethical pharmaceutical and OTC priorities. Hopefully, is it true, Brian?
Proprietaries.
Okay.
Proprietaries.
Proprietaries. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. There are some words I can't pronounce. We bring core competencies and basically strength to the company. So there are some sort of marketing we can do for the physicians, and there are some sort of research and development in the different therapeutical areas. We can find opportunities in licensing and research and development. We can protect our position in terms of patients, brands, and so on. So basically, when you are a pharmaceutical company, you can claim, if you are basically business developer for a pharmaceutical company, there are claims basically that you can do these things for the company, right? Is there anything else you can add to this list? Anything we can add? You want to challenge any of those? Adding values to the patient side, to the customer side, like to employers, right? To the brand of the company. Okay. Next is creativity and organizations. Creativity is needed to identify issues, determine alternative, and also develop a vision statement. So basically, you have to be creative in order to provide vision statement for the company. The natural tendency is back to Adams of organizations to routinize, decrease uncertainty, increase predictability, and also centralize functions and control is certainty at odds with creativity, right? So basically, this is how creativity can add value, decrease uncertainty, and predictability of the company. That's based on Adam in 1973. Corporate culture and company traditions often hamper creative thinking. So basically, you have to know which company you are. There are, like, for example, friends that we have actually in different companies working. Some of those companies, like for example, I have a friend working for Amazon. They said that really is a very good environment for critical thinking. So they really pay attention to and to the customer, to basically their employees. I'm not sure about, because there was some bad news about working in Amazon actually last few months. I was reading the news, but in terms of research and development, they were saying that the culture of the company is such that they brings ideas. Okay, some companies are like that. The more traditional companies, they have less kind of room for critical and innovation from their employees. Now we have issues, and then we have to categorize the issues. So usually the issues that the company has either goes to decisions, type of decisions, uncertainties, values, and some others, right? So basically, categorizing the issues helps you to start breaking the decision problems down into some manageable units. So basically, you're lowering down. It's some sort of integration as well. Once you have all the decision and all the uncertainty in kind of different units, you have more chance to integrate them and solve the problems actually. The questions? Developing information, trade-offs, and alternatives. In this step, structure for the issues and challenges identified in step 1 is developed. So basically, step 1 was assessing. Now in this stage is a development, right? So basically, you provide a structure for the issues, right, and also challenges that you basically assessed in the first step, which was basically assessment. You further refine the issues. So you have the issues in the developing side. You further refine it. Search for information that might have been basically overlooked. Provide some alternatives, right? Learn more about some uncertainty in the system, and also identify value trade-offs. All right, so tell me what you think about. So, for example, we want to just do some brainstorming over here. What do you think about a pharmaceutical company? What type of, if you are in step 2, what type of issues do you have in a pharmaceutical? So let's assume that you are a business planner for a pharmaceutical company. What would you do? So, what kind of issues do you think they have in a pharmaceutical company? Yes?
Like complying with the regulations.
Complying with regulations, exactly. So there are many regulations. Okay. Let's say that it's about a new product development. Let's say that there is a kind of a research center that came up with a drug, and they want to launch that drug.
Acceptance in the market.
Say it again.
Acceptance in the market.
If it's marketable or not? So regulations, market. What else? What do we do? Yeah.
Pricing it in a competitive manner or in a way that it's accessible to a large number of people.
Exactly. Whether it's accessible to a large number of people and what price we should do it. What else?
So like product testing to make sure there's no like bad side effects for them.
Okay.
Production capabilities.
Production capabilities. Okay. So when we talk about development phase, all right. So we want to basically specify these issues that we list over here. So basically, in fact, the issues that we were facing is that we have a pharmaceutical company, and they have different types of they have a product, and we want to see whether they have to launch it or not. And there were some sort of issues that they were facing: the regulations, for example, and also the market. So let's just focus about regulation and markets. Okay, there are regulation issue and there are market issue, and something about production. Also, are we able to produce it or something? So we just list all the problems that we have about a new product in a pharmaceutical company. Searching for information that might have been overlooked. What do you think that is in a pharmaceutical company? Yes.
Could be clinical side effects that you found when you tested the drug.
Okay.
And maybe you don't know how bad the side effects are, how big your sample size was it big enough to know really
Okay.
what your risk is?
That's a very good one. Yes. So the point was that once we have we listed the issues, now we have to find out what type of information have been overlooked. And one example, a very good example, was that there might be some side effects with this drug, and that was overlooked, and perhaps it might be a very important issue, and that's one of those issues that provides disruption, right? So if you don't take a look at this phase well, later in the road you can face problems with huge, for example, disruption, right? If there are lawsuits and stuff like that against yourself. So developing alternatives in pharmaceutical company, what do you think about developing alternatives? Whether to launch it or not launch it, right? What else? It's a new product. Yes?
Maybe like launch it, not launch it, or like either like just shelf the product or like do further research.
Okay. So the point was that there are different types of alternatives that we can have, whether to launch the product, not to launch the product, or put more investments for future development of the company. Learning more about uncertainties. There are many things that we can learn about uncertainty of a new drug. What type of response the market has, what kind of side effects what kind of legal issues we're gonna face. So those are the uncertainties we're gonna have, and also the disease breakout, like what kind of breakouts we might have, and value trade-offs. So what is the trade-off between higher profits and more risk to future issues, right? This is something, if I launch, I'm going to have profit, but my company is prone to more risk or also more issues later on. I might have lawsuits or something like that. That's one example. If you have any other example, I would just say. What else? What do you think? Any example?
Well, it's the same. It's value trade-off would be a very in-depth clinical evaluation that could cost millions of dollars.
Exactly.
But it would answer all your questions, and you would know your risk,
Yeah.
or how much you want to spend, and how much risk you will take.
Exactly. Okay. Using creativity techniques are especially helpful at this stage since it entails searching for unknown, such as the overlooked information, uncertainty, and alternatives. So basically, creativity is very useful over here. If you have one person in the company who is very creative in having ideas of what type of issues we're going to face in the future, that's going to be great. So creativity is part of a general process by which people acquire new knowledge and learn about the world. Okay, so here is where we have more creative and knowledgeable and more experienced people are very useful. Specifically, actually, the capacity for making unusual and new mental association of the concepts would be useful over here. Phases of creative thought process by Wallace. Basically, we want to see what creative thought is. What are the creative thoughts? What are the processes for creative thoughts, right? It's very good to know. Some preparation. So when we want to have creative thought, we have to have preparations. Learn about the problem and its elements. So we have to learn, you have to study, you have to do some preparation, learning about the problem. In our field, for example, when you want to do research, if you want to be creative, you really have to read the literature. You have to read the books and articles to see what problems our colleagues are facing and how do they solve it. So preparation is one thing. Incubation is just don't be narrow-minded. Consider different paths and freely generate different options. Illumination, the flash of insight when all the pieces come together, right? The flash of insight, you have to have some insight about once you have all the pieces of in your mind that you come together, you have to have some sort of also insight about the whole picture. Verification, double check the merits of the proposed solution. So you have to also double check that. So these are the different steps of being creative. Developing alternatives using the creative process. Now, the major issue in terms of alternatives, as we said last time, decision analysis is an art. It's nothing but an art, right? It's just how creative you are in providing those alternatives. And sometimes we don't have a unique answer to most of problems. We have different types of answers. So for developing alternatives, right, using creative process, you have to do brainstorming. So brainstorming is a especially useful creative technique used in many organizations. So brainstorming is useful in most of the organizations. This is part of that preparation, actually. How do you do brainstorming? Suspend judgment as ideas are proposed. Avoid criticism. Focus on quality of ideas, quantity of ideas. These are something to avoid, right? Encourage people to build on each other's ideas. Challenge the conventional wisdom of the business. Keep a clear record of ideas and also have fun and be creative. So basically, get together. Don't worry about judgment. Don't worry about being criticized. Encourage people to just build ideas based on each other idea. Just start talking to people. challenge usually, like there is a conventional wisdom of an organization that is, okay, it's just God says so, but it's not really true. Challenge everything, challenge ideas, challenge the existing ideas and systems that are in place, and it should come up with fun. Actually, we do brainstorming. Right before I come to the class, I was brainstorming with my colleague about writing a paper, an article. And that was just starting from his research idea, and then I shared my research idea, and then it was really fun that we were just challenging each other to come up with some idea to work in a pricing problem, for example. So we have this value-focused also thinking. So your thinking should be value-focused. It's just be a proactive rather than reactive, creative thinking technique for generating alternatives and looking for opportunities. So it shouldn't be reactive. It shouldn't be just providing a solution to a problem. It should be proactive. It should generate ideas, and also it should look for different types of alternatives and opportunities. Value-focused thinking is best if done by an individual, group, or organization that truly understand its value and objectives. So if the people understand the objective and value of an organization, they can do better jobs. 3 types of value-focusing thinking: fundamental objective, means objective, and strategy tables are basically different value-focused methods of thinking. What is the fundamental objective technique? Okay, it invents a good alternative for each fundamental objective, one at a time, right? So basically you have different fundamental objectives that we spoke last time, and you basically provide alternative for them one at a time, then pair them actually to 2 objectives, and then invent a good alternative for that pair, and etc. So finally, you will consider all of the alternatives generated to see if any can be used for decision problems. So basically what they do, once you remember that we had fundamental objectives before. So we have multiple fundamental objectives. So basically, for each fundamental objective, you invent a good alternative. So just one alternative for the good, for the fundamental objective, and then pair up 2 objectives. Right now, just consider, the second objective, right? The first objective was maximizing profits, for example. And the second objective is customer satisfaction. Provide different alternatives for profit maximization. What can we do to increase the profit of the company, right? And then go for customer satisfaction. This is another fundamental, objective. Remember, the fundamental objective was the one that you could not basically go after it. You could not narrow it down anymore, right? You could not say why to it, right? And how come. Maximizing profit, customer satisfaction. So if you have 2 fundamental objectives, provide alternative for each of them, and then try to merge it and find out different alternatives that basically address both fundamental objectives. Okay? And look at the objective simultaneously and try to come up with the ideal alternative, then consider what makes it less than ideal, right? So basically, look at different objectives at the same time, find the ideal alternative, and find out why you cannot reach that ideal alternative. Start with the good alternative available and try to improve it. So basically, we don't have usually many alternatives, right? You have to just find the best one that you know, it's a good one, and then try to improve it by adding alternative or improving that specific one. If you remember, for just the pharmaceutical company, we just started with 2 alternatives, right? The alternative was whether to launch the new product or not. And then we just added another one. She said that, okay, let's just give a chance and then do more investment. So that was the third alternative. So basically, we just added, improved it a little bit. Means objectives techniques. Since means objective techniques are ways for achieving fundamental objective, they are naturally suggestive of new alternatives. Remember, for example, if the cost minimization, right, was the goal, right, or profit maximization was the goal, a means objective is lowering the costs, and another one actually is just lowering the energy costs. So lowering energy costs, we don't have the company, right, or the organization to just lower the energy costs. We are here to do profit maximization. But lowering energy cost was a way to reach the fundamental objective. True? But that was a kind of intermediate way. Just because the means objectives are ways for achieving a fundamental objective, they are naturally subjective of producing new alternatives. They help ensure that as many aspects of the decision problem as possible basically are covered, and use a means objective network diagram and consider alternatives for each node one at a time. So basically we have to use this sort of means objective network for improving automotive safety. So once, if the fundamental objective is maximizing basically safety, then we have different means of objective. So several alternatives easily suggest themselves for minimizing DUI to gather traffic laws, higher drinking age, and public education programs basically are the ways to maximize the safety, right? So maximizing safety, and then it just come up with the means objectives, which are minimizing accidents, and also maximizing use of VSF, like vehicle safety features. And then for each of them, again, you come up with different means objective. You open the door, maximizing driving quality. And then once for maximizing driving quality, it provides a whole range of new alternatives. Like, for example, having reasonable traffic laws, or minimizing driving under influence, DUI of alcohol, right? For example, like requires safety features that helps for the hardware and also the car itself. And also it maximizes use of vehicle safety features, and eventually we reach this maximizing safety, which is the fundamental objective. When alternatives are complex and numerous, strategy tables are useful. So basically also we have to have a strategy table, right? The first column contains a list of strategies. So we have the strategies in the first column. This remaining column are various areas of activities in which alternatives are listed. So depending on what type of strategy we are talking about, we have the remaining activities. For each strategy, pick one alternative in each of the activity columns, right? For each strategy, we basically pick different alternatives and make sure that alternatives for a strategy are compatible and consistent with each other. For example, over here, we have value-focused thinking again. We have a strategy, basically short-term profit improvement. That's one strategy, basically one alternative. Current profit-focused reallocation, joint venture and license focus, and broad-based expansion are different types of alternatives in terms of a strategy. And then the international focus, also we can have worldwide presence, build a critical sales force mass in top 20 countries, 12 countries. We can have acquire companies or joint venture to build critical mass in Germany, Japan, etc. And so on. And the next column is domestic marketing. So in a company, you have to have international focus, domestic company, licensing and joint venture, and generics, and also research part. So if you pick one, for example, let's say just focus on reallocation, then it's better to build, acquire, and companies or joint venture, follows by maximizing current sales force and increase the advertisement. And then in terms of licensing, you have to do out licensing, basically out licensing limited to low potential drugs, and focus in licensing with joint research agreements. And then the generics products, stay out of and remove the trademark to prevent share erosion, and also concentrate on key products classes. So basically the path of having, based on the initial strategy, we have a path of choosing different strategies, choosing different alternatives in our change or also in operations management. Does it make sense? Risk evaluation. The strategy team evaluates the alternatives using a variety of tools to quantify the probability and the consequences of and timing of the consequences. So basically, once you pick a choice, you pick an alternative, what are the consequences? Conducting deterministic and probabilistic sensitivity analysis. How sensitive the outcome is with respect to different parameters of this system. Probability distributions for alternative is one thing that we have to do. And using a spreadsheet and other software tools to provide economic measure for outcome. Eventually, we want to have economic measures for different types of outcomes, and we have to use a spreadsheet and other software tools. And you can use the whole range of methods, right, to do so. Questions? Questions you have? You good? Any idea? So for the evaluation part, we can use, in fact, different methods. A variety of tools assist in decision analysis cycle. So decision analysis cycle is starting with the structure, deterministic analysis, some sort of probabilistic analysis, appraisal, and then iteration goes to a structure again, and eventually we make a decision when there is no other iteration. If there is an iteration, then you can go again, revise your structure, or whether the problem is deterministic or stochastic, and also do some appraisal and also make a final decision. There are different things that you can for the decision model, you can use the tables or the decision trees, value of information, influence diagram can be used, deterministic sensitivity, also the tornado graph, some sort of probabilistic distribution. So if you have a probability distribution, you can also use, and decision quality of. So there are different techniques that can be used to do the evaluation. You have to also evaluate risk and returns. The strategy team issues a report of the sensitivity analysis and its findings to the decision board. Using the report, decision board members basically ask for a clarification of anything unclear in the report. So decision basically, the board members say, oh, okay, I didn't understand this part, explain more. They ensure they fully understand risk versus return. So this risk versus return is very crucial for each alternative. The decision board also, now they can choose among the alternatives which can be implemented in the decision part. So basically we have the decide, which is step number 4. Now the alternatives are given, evaluation is being done, comparison is being done, risk and return is being done, and then you have to make decision. They can provide additional details, explanations, and also analysis for the chosen alternative. Why they really chose this type of alternative. They have to weigh this issue, the organizational issues, strategic concerns, and economic added value possibilities, basically to do so. The board also examines ways to reduce risk and increase the returns of the chosen alternative from the current level. So basically, they provide some sort of suggestion for the future. So, actions to add value and reduce risk. Actually, we can have the board as it is, cut off to downside, shift to right, focus the concentration, right? And basically, what it does, it changes the probability of the values, right? So there are, for example, if we leave the board as is, this is the distribution of possible values that can happen, right? For example, if you have the board as is, there are possibilities of very negative outcomes. Whereas if we do the second strategy, the distribution is completely going to change, right? So are we able to bear some sort of risk for having low values, whereas there are some possibilities of having very high values? Or no, we want to just have like a little kind of condensed kind of way, or we want to really avoid, basically we want to concentrate and we want to avoid extreme values. We don't want to have negative or very high positive values. We want to be more concentration. So basically, it gives gives you actually the different alternatives. Different alternatives provide you with different distributions for your outcome, and the distribution also refers to the risk and return, the chance of having specific returns. That's the table provided to the strategy team. And remember that the goal is to improve the board as is. So if these values are net values, net profit, or basically they are the net returns, if we leave the board as is, if we don't do anything, we're going to have the outcomes with this basically associated risk. So basically we have the probabilities of different outcomes. But we want to improve the system. But the point is that, the point of this slide is that there are different strategies and comparing them is very difficult. If you want to pick any of them, how do you pick? Is there any method to pick them? Which basically, that's the next chapter of risk analysis that we want to know, depending on the product perhaps, or the organization value, and also or the organization mission and goal, any of them can be the right answer. Deciding is frequently an alternative process, iterative process. So it's an iterative process. So deciding is really an iterative process. For example, through evaluating the strategy team's report, the board may come up with a hybrid strategy that decreases risk or increases the value added more than any alternative identified in the report. So basically, with iteration, you want to have low risk, higher values. The strategy must do analysis on a hybrid strategy. So hybrid strategy is just not considering the value alone or risk alone, but both. So when you have a strategy 1, 2, and 3, you can have a hybrid strategy. You can pick part of each strategy and develop a whole new strategy, which is basically hybrid. Take the best of any of those strategies and generate and develop a new one. Some plan for actions. The task is to create the image mentally and on paper. So you have to provide an image of organization after the implementation of the chosen alternative basically has been completed. So basically an image would be necessary over here. And also select these those responsible for implementing the alternatives. Who are the responsible? Who are the people responsible for implementing them? Setting the plan of action with those people responsible, including the needed organization changes and also improvements. You can add some new personnel to the board team and or to the strategy team. Involved specifically in the implementation part. So when it comes to implementation, sometimes the whole strategy or the methods are new to the company. Could not have been identified until the alternative was selected. So basically, depending on what type of alternative you take, you might have different implementation team, right? Because it requires expertise and also skills. And also it will expand the organization buy-in, of course. It adds value and it helps to foresee any barriers for implementation. Never assume that implementation will take care of itself or be easy or straightforward. It will take effort and attention to detail by decision boards. And if any of those steps were not done well, and the ideas and concerns the people involved have not been integrated into the decision, the necessary commitment may be missing, and also there would be no commitment or chance of successfulness become lower also as well. How do we ensure that these steps are done well? So there should be some managing and monitoring. To ensure that the decision process is done well, there is a need for managing and monitoring from the very beginning to the end. All 6 steps produce definable products, some sort of reports, right? You have the reports, and these must be rigorously evaluated. Make sure that you have the right mix of people for each step, and monitor decision quality throughout. So basically, if these are the steps, the successful outcome of the 6 steps requires a right mix of people. This figure illustrates the typical mix of skills and effort needed. Usually, in terms of the assessment and development, you need more creative people. So creative is very useful in terms of developing and also some sort of evaluating. In the evaluation and decision, those skillful analytics would be very useful. In planning also, we have more change management and implementation. Change management would be very useful. And business knowledge is useful throughout, more like toward the end. Ensuring high decision quality is critical to a successful decision process. So, decision quality, how to measure decision quality? One way to do so is by asking 6 fundamental questions concerning decision quality, right? These 6 questions are shown in spider diagram. So we call it the spider diagram. So there are 6 decision questions to ask. Appropriate firm is being used or not. Creative, double alternative is being used. meaningful, reliable information, clear values and trade-offs, and logically correct reasoning. And then you can have some sort of yes or no answer, and depending on how big this nest is, basically we have a good decision making. The 100% point is where additional effort to improve is not worth its cost. So in this chapter, which was basically qualitative chapter, he just gave a big comprehensive idea. You learn about decision analysis in an organization context. You saw a 6-step decision process that helps ensuring organization success. And basically, it helps successfully solve their problem. And we specifically look at the trade-off between reducing risk and creative values, the lacing of a strategy team and the decision board, the importance of creativity and value-focused thinking, and the need to constantly manage and monitor the process.